Today's episode is a very special re-release of one of my favorite episodes that I ever recorded. It was episode 10. I was joined by my friend Christie, who as an adult is known as Crystal, but we met in the second grade. So I'm Debbie to her and she's Christie to me. I've asked for prayer intermittently throughout this year because Christie faced a new cancer battle right after we recorded this episode. When we recorded this episode, she was in remission. She reached out to me because she wanted an opportunity to use her story to encourage others who are going through their own cancer battles. That was really important to her, and it remained important to her in the midst of her next cancer battle that we did not know was coming at the time. I want to say she found out about her next battle with cancer around 2 months after we recorded this. It wasn't long. It could have been shorter. But she initially went to the doctor because she thought maybe she was having similar issues that she had had before with her colorectal cancer. It turns out that she had lung cancer, and then shortly after that was diagnosed with brain tumors. And the new battle began. She fought hard. She worried about her family. She had good days and bad days. She had all the normal feelings that a person would have, the disappointments, the encouragements, the moments of anger, the moments of will to fight, the moments of exhaustion. She had them all. She called me in June and told me that she just really felt like her purpose was to encourage other people who are going through this from the point of view of someone who's been there, done that, because you can't know what it's like to be battling such an insidious illness unless you are the one who has fought it. We can make assumptions about what that might be like, but you can't know. And she wanted to talk about the things that people don't talk about. She talked to me about maybe writing a book and wondered if I could direct her to people who could help her get a book published. I said, I feel like I can. Let me see what I can do. And she wanted to start journaling and spend her life encouraging people who were going through what she was going through. I got a text the day after Thanksgiving from her letting me know that her cancer was terminal, but that she was going to take radiation to try to prolong her life as long as possible. This is her middle child senior year. She wanted to be here and be a part of all the things that he had going on. And that was the hardest thing for her. I think through her whole cancer journey was those times when she could not be there for her family the way that she wanted to. She couldn't show up the way that she wanted to. She loved people a lot, and she was a caretaker at heart. That was her heart, was to take care of other people. On December 4th, barely a week after I received her text about the cancer being terminal, I received a call from her dad that she had passed away. One of the many things that Christie taught me through all of this is some people get more time on this planet than others, but your impact can last a lot longer than your physical body. Christie's impact is lasting. I don't even know if she realized the difference her TikToks made in the lives of other people who were fighting cancer. I don't know if she realized the difference that her appearance on this podcast made, but her impact will last for years to come, and her purpose will continue to be carried out, and that is why I am re-releasing her episode today. I want you to hear what she has to say about the real experience of having cancer, what she went through, what she learned, what we should learn from her story. May she rest in peace, and I am sure she heard, "Well done, my good and faithful servant."
Nobody's ever gonna take your place. Yeah, I think we should meet in the middle. I follow you 'cause you're the light of the day. I need you like you need me, it's so simple. It's so simple.
Welcome back to the Gen X Juggler podcast. I'm so glad you're here. I have a very special guest on the podcast with me today, and I can't wait for you to meet her. So let's get the legal stuff out of the way. The information presented on this podcast is for entertainment and informational purposes only and should not be considered as professional advice in any field, including legal, medical, financial, or mental health. The views expressed by guests on this podcast are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the host and/or producers. Christie and I met in the second grade. We were fast friends and spent a lot of time playing and dancing in my room to Thriller. She fully supported my obsession with Michael Jackson. Even when I told everyone in the third grade that I was over it, I knew I could tell her the truth. Christie has always had the biggest heart and the biggest smile. She's one of those people who can brighten up any room. She certainly didn't deserve the turn her life has taken in recent years. Truthfully, nobody does. But she handled it and continues to handle it with grace. You've been on an extreme health journey in the past few years, and I'm so glad that you're here to share your story.
Thank you. In 2022, and it started in August, I was having some symptoms. Basically, I felt like I had hemorrhoids. They just kept getting worse, and I went to the doctor, and I tried over-the-counter medicine and stuff, and none of that worked, and it just seemed like it was getting worse and worse and worse, and I couldn't stand, I couldn't sit, I couldn't lay down. I just wasn't comfortable anyway. I was working at the time in an office, and I couldn't even work. I kept having to go home because I just could not sit there and concentrate, and I was hurting so bad. This went from August to January, and in January, I talked to my doctor. I told him, I was like, we got to try something else. Can I go see a GI doctor or something? I know that something else is wrong. It can't be hemorrhoids because it's just getting worse. Everything I ate caused me to go to the bathroom. I was bleeding. My stomach was bothering me constantly. I felt like I was going to throw up. And I was like, it's just not hemorrhoids. It's something else is wrong. And so they finally let me go to a GI doctor and didn't. If it wasn't for that GI doctor, I don't think that I can't say that I don't think I wouldn't be sitting here because I don't know that for a fact, but he's the reason why I found out what was wrong and why I got my treatment. And when I got ready to go to the doctor, I made sure I wrote a bunch of questions down. And that's one thing that I think anybody and everybody, when they go to the doctor, they need to do. If you have questions, there is not a stupid question to ask because this is your health, this is your body, and you have every right to ask any question that's going to make you feel better and it's going to ease your mind.
And you only have so much time during your appointment. It's very smart advice to write those questions down. How did he wind up diagnosing you?
Well, I had to have a colonoscopy. He came in after the colonoscopy and he said, okay, Crystal, we found a mass, but we're sending it off and then we'll let you know what it is. And so on the way home, I remember I was crying, I was upset, and my husband kept telling me, think positive, think positive. And in my mind, I kept thinking, okay, I know something's wrong. I know it's cancer. And, I told you once before, my two fears in that whole health thing was getting rectal cancer and having a permanent colostomy bag. In my mind, I thought, is this my fear? Is my fear coming true? So it wasn't even a week, and he called and said that I had rectal cancer.
Oh my goodness.
I didn't know what to say because in December, my mom passed away. So I found this out in February, and I was just like, really? My mom was the rock of our family. She was the strong one. She's the one with all the faith, and she was all this, and she wasn't there no more. So I was like, what do we do? Because we were lost. Our family it was like a big hole.
Of course.
Now,
Yeah.
this is something else on top of it. And like, what are we going to do? So the GI doctor said, okay, these doctors are the best. This is where you need to go. They're going to help you. And it was UT Southwestern in Dallas. In my opinion, that's like the best place you could go in the state of Texas if you have cancer, because they're going to cure you or they're going to try. And they're going to give their best effort possible. And it's not just going to be one person, it's going to be several working on you. So by this time, we had to change insurances just to be able to go there and talk to Dr. Ali, who is the surgical oncologist, one of them there. And I made an appointment with her. My dad went with me because my husband was working. It was her and 30 different doctors that all talked together to decide what was the best course of treatment because they didn't even know what stage it was yet.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I went home, I was walking around in the fog and they were in constant contact with me. They were constantly calling me saying, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do radiation first, then chemotherapy. And then they called me back and they said, no, we think chemo was probably going to be the best thing to do first, then radiation because of where it was located.
Trying to shrink it more with the chemo initially?
Yes. And they said, we're going to send you to this doctor first, Dr. Verma, and he was my main oncologist. And they said, then what we're going to do, because of where it's located, you're going to have to see a oncologist who's also a gynecologist. I mean, they had a list of a care team. And they told me all these different people, they're going to be your resources. If you need anything, you call them.
So they made sure you didn't feel alone or ignored, and you didn't have to just sit around waiting if you had a question.
They were so caring. I was a nervous wreck. I was upset. I was crying. I didn't know how to handle what they were telling me. There was a part of me like, no, I'm going to beat this. I'm going to be fine. There was a part of me that was just scared out of my mind because I felt, even though I had all my family and my friends, I felt alone. I felt by myself because I'm like, how am I going to do this? Because right now I feel broken because one of the most important people in my life is not here. I feel broken. I don't know what to do. And I don't want my family to go through this, and I don't want my husband and my children to go through this again. And so it was just, I was kind of lost.
So you were worried about your own cancer, your own health problems. And then on top of that, because of your role as a wife and a mom and a daughter and a sister, you're worried about everybody else too.
I'm the oldest of me and my sisters. The older sister usually, our older sibling usually feels like they have to take charge and take care of their younger ones. And since my mom wasn't here, I thought, I need to take care of my dad and my sisters because my mom wasn't here to do it. And I just felt like I need to take care of everybody. And I thought, okay, how am I going to do this? I started chemo. Beforehand, I had to go in and get my port put in. They explained everything to me. They're like, okay, this is what you're going to do. You're going to get chemo and you're going to get so many chemo treatments. And you're going to do the IV chemo first. And so the first day I went in there, I remember walking in there, and it's a great place to be because you can feel hope and stuff when you walk in that building. It's a different feel. But also you look at all these people and you're like, man, this is a group that I just did not want to be a part of, but this is a group that I'm a part of.
Yeah.
And so when we went in there and they got me hooked up, they tried to tell me, okay, try to, on the day of your chemo, try to eat something so you're not getting all that chemotherapy on an empty stomach and you get sick. Inside there, they had snacks and they had drinks and they had, in your little room, there was a chair, television, but you could go down the hall and get all that stuff if you needed it. They had the lunch ladies and people to come around so you could order lunch and stuff if you wanted to. And so I remember sitting in there. I took a bunch of stuff to do. I took like the colors and coloring book because I was doing that to occupy my time. And I took music and all kinds of stuff with me because I was going to be there for, I think my first one, I believe was like 5 or 6 hours. It's a long period of time. And my husband went with me. And of course, there's a place for them to sit too. And I remember feeling, it just made me so nauseous and so sick. And they told me that, let us know if you're feeling nauseous. Let us know how you're feeling. When I would go get my chemo, each day I'd have a new nurse. Each time I'd have my own little care team that would come in there and take care of me. The first time, I remember when I got done, they hooked up a chemo pump I had to take a pump home, and I'd have it from, I think, till like Saturday, I believe it was. And then my treatments were usually on a Monday or Tuesday. And when I was done on Saturday, we would disconnect it. And then I had that whole week, the next week, to try to feel better before I'd have to do it again, because it was every other week.
Oh my goodness, that sounds like such a roller coaster for your body.
It was. First and foremost, you have to trust your doctor, because they know what they're doing. And if you don't trust your doctor, you're not going to be able to get well, especially with something like that.
That's a good point.
And everybody feels different, I think, after they have chemo, but I was so tired. It just wore me out. And we live in Aubrey, so we drove from Aubrey to Dallas, which is not that far. It's maybe from like Channing to Amarillo. It's not really that far at all.
So about an hour's drive?
Yes, depending on the traffic. So when I'd get home, I'd lay down and I'd sleep, and then I'd feel sick, and I would try to eat. I was doing chemo, and I don't know if a lot of people experience this, but it felt like I had lockjaw. It would hurt to chew. It hurt to swallow. Plus, everything I was eating was making me feel nauseous, and they give you pain medication to take. They give you all kinds of stuff to take to help with that. Things to do to make you feel better. And so I was trying that stuff, and the one thing that made me feel better was grape Kool-Aid, as crazy as it sounds. And I couldn't have anything cold
Really?
because I was getting neuropathy. I couldn't touch nothing cold. Nothing cold. Drink nothing cold, touch nothing cold, because I touch it and my fingers felt like they were just, it hurt so bad, my feet and my hands. And they told me that was a symptom that you could get during chemotherapy, was neuropathy. And that was one thing that I got.
So many times, and especially in your case, it seems that way, the attempt to cure is worse than the cancer. You just have to stay sick for so long to try to get better.
Yes, it's like a lot of things, sometimes the side effects are worse than what you're actually going through. And each time that I had chemo, I got a little better.
Oh, that's
I
good.
started hurting a little less, and I joined a colon rectal cancer Facebook group. I'm still a part of this group. They are wonderful. They are so caring, loving. They will give suggestions. They will pray for you. Their goal is to make you feel like you are strong and you can get through anything. And everybody in this group does that.
That is awesome. Community matters when we're going through the hard stuff, for sure. I'm so glad you had them.
Yes, and I would talk to them a lot. I'm saying, "Hey, I'm feeling like this today. Has anybody felt like that? And if you did, what helped?" Before I went to chemo, like my second and third chemo, I was like, I just ask everybody, "Well, what do you take when you go to chemo?" Because I didn't want to go. Several people told me beforehand, some of my friends that I talked to that had cancer before, they're like, when you go do chemo, you take this with you and take that with you, because you're going to be there a while. Take your own blanket or take something that means something to you. Take the stuff with you that makes you feel comfortable, because you're going to be in an uncomfortable place. I started feeling like, I slept all the time. I felt like an absentee parent, absentee wife. I'd have people calling me all the time, and sometimes I wouldn't answer because I was just like, I'm tired. I'm in a place where I just would not be good to talk to. And of course, that would scare everybody if you don't answer.
Oh, yeah. So this might be a good time to kind of go into something we talked about before we started recording, about your interactions with people during the time you had cancer. I think we all want some insight on how best to love the people who are going through something like that.
Like I was telling you before, when I would talk to my family and my friends, they were so encouraging and loving, and they were just like building me up and stuff like that. But then there was times that when I talked to them, I was feeling bad. I was feeling emotionally, physically, mentally drained, and kept questioning, is this treatment going to work? Or is this treatment not going to work? And am I going to die? And just all these things kept going through my head. And I'd want to talk to them, and they're like, no, 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 don't think that way. And sometimes whenever whether it's cancer or if you have any kind of other health problems, those thoughts sometimes get in your head, whether you want them there or not.
Sure.
I came face to face, so to speak, with my mortality. I was like, okay, I'm not afraid to die, but I don't want to die right now. In my mind, it's not my time. God forbid if it is, then it is. I mean, you can't live in fear that you're going to die, because you're not going to live if you do that. And I kept sitting there thinking about all the things that the cancer took away from me. The very last Christmas I had with my mama, I didn't go up to their house as early as I normally would because it didn't feel good. And I left earlier than I normally would have because I didn't feel good. And I laid there and I would think about that. I'm like, this cancer kept me from the last holiday I got to spend with my mom, not knowing it was my last holiday. And I was so angry. I told several people, I was like, I'm mad. I'm angry with God because I don't understand. And at that time, I was like, okay, I'm having a pity party. I'm feeling sorry for myself. But I'm like, why are you doing this to me? There were several times, Debbie, that I would lay there in bed and I would probably look crazy, but I would talk to him. I'm like, why are you doing this? What reason has all these events that's happened? Why? What did I do? What did my family do? Am I being punished for something? And then I called the chaplain that UT Southwestern provides, and I was telling her about this stuff, and I was telling her about my family. I'm like, they don't listen to me. My friends, they're so encouraging and so loving, and that's great. But I was like, I just want to vent.
Yeah.
And she told me, she goes, okay, Crystal, I understand you want to vent, and you have every right to. But you got to also you want them to look at it from your point of view. You need to look at it from their point of view. They want to help you and they can't. They feel like their hands are tied. They feel helpless and they're scared. And they're looking to you because you're the one that's sick. They're looking to you to lead the way.
Wow. You told me that the chaplain let you really say what you needed to say.
She did. And she told me, she goes, it is okay to be angry with God. He's got big shoulders.
Yes.
And he's going to love you regardless. And he's going to stand by you regardless. But you need to understand, he's not doing it to you. You're not being punished. He's not doing it to you. Bad things that happen in your life are not punishments for things. That's just not how it works. Everybody has their own journey. Everybody has their own story, and this is yours.
Wow.
And
that's powerful.
I thought, you know what? She's right. I need to get back to being my old self, being the person that my parents raised me to be.
But I understand how hard that is to do in that situation. And I think there's something for the rest of us out here to learn from what you said. And that is, even though we think we're being encouraging to our friends who are going through the worst of the worst by saying, it'll be okay, God's got you, it'll be fine. Even if every single bit of that is true, did you feel like you needed people to just go into the trenches with you and just sit there with you while you worked it out?
Yes, because I felt like not that I believed any of this bad stuff that was going through my head, but I just needed to get it out, getting it off my chest. And like when you're angry, if you get it off your chest, sometimes it makes you feel better. And you need those people that will just let you vent, not take it personal, because you're not aiming it towards them. You're just getting it off your chest, and therefore you feel better because you got it out, you know?
Yeah, definitely. So how long did you do chemo?
I did chemo for, I believe it was 3 or 4 months, every other week for 3 or 4 months. It was like 20 something rounds of chemo. And I gotta tell you, when I was doing the chemo, I told you once before, there's a lady that would come in, and she was the music therapist. Beautiful voice. She would sing if you wanted her to sing a song. She would sit there and talk to you. And me and her, taught each other so much about music. I would tell her songs that I listened to, and she's like, "I've never heard that." I was like, "You need to listen to that song." And she would tell me songs, and she was just like a bright spot, during that time. And the UT Southwestern, they don't have a bell to ring when you're done. But the last day, she brought me a little gift bag, and I was like, "What is this?" And she's like, "Well, it's your last day of chemo." And I was very emotional. I was upset. I was crying because I felt like it was an accomplishment, but it just hit me a way that I never thought it would. I didn't think I'd get that emotional on the last day of chemo. And she's like, "This is a gift for you." And I opened it up, and it was my own little white bell. And I thought, I'm going to wait. I want all my kids to be there with me. And I want the most important people to me, if not all of them, some of them, to be there. So I remember going home. They gave me a certification showing that I completed chemo, and all the nurses signed it. And I thought, y'all are awesome, you know? And that last day, I bought flowers. I took to them, and, I thought I wanted to give y'all this. And I got a thank you card, and I wrote in there just how important they were to me. Sorry.
No, I understand. You've been on an emotional journey, and I know you're just so grateful. That's where the tears are coming from. You're so
I
grateful.
am. And they were so great. I mean, they were so, you can tell when somebody cares about you, and then when somebody just says the words. And they really do care about each and every person that goes through there. These people are God sent, because you have to be to do this every day. But I got that stuff, and I went home, and I called my oldest son, called my dad, and they were video chatting because they were in the same place. And my husband and my two other boys were there, and I rang my bell, and I cried and I cried, and I thought, did this work? And I was praying and hoping it did, because even though I was angry with God, I prayed, and I tried to keep my faith, because you got to have faith. You got to believe that He's going to help you. You can't lose your faith. No matter what, no matter how angry you get, you have to keep your faith.
So you make it through the chemo, and then what's the next course of action?
Then afterwards, my doctor's like, "Okay, it shrank it." Because I felt better after like my fourth round of chemo. I started feeling better. I wasn't hurting. I wasn't having to take my pain medication. I wasn't having to do a lot of those things because I was feeling better.
Oh, that's great.
I felt like it was working, but I still questioned it.
Sure, you want to see those test results, don't you?
Yes. And then he told me, he goes, "Okay, we're going to do radiation, and we're going to do it Monday through Friday for 6 weeks." And so when I went there, it was a different building. And those 6 weeks, I met some of the greatest, sweet, loving people I think I've ever met in my life. They were precious, because this one lady, she was an elderly lady, and this was her third battle with breast cancer. And I thought, bless your heart. But she had a fighting spirit like I've never seen before in my life. And I thought, you know what? You see these people, and you're thinking, I shouldn't feel that bad, because if she can do it, I can do it. That their spirit and their fight kind of jumps onto you. It's contagious.
I love that. Her contagious fighting spirit.
Yes. And it wasn't bad. I was scared to death first when I went to radiation, because they tell you, you could end up with the radiation burns and go through all this. And I managed to get it done. And I didn't have radiation burns until the last week of my treatment. It just felt like a sunburn. I was so thankful. I thought, oh my gosh, this is awesome.
I'm so glad you didn't have any terrible side effects from the radiation.
No, I didn't. And I was thankful. And I think it was because the prep I did before I went to radiation every day. I made sure I ate a little something. I made sure I stayed hydrated. And they told me when I started radiation, they're like, when you go home, don't you dare lay down. Don't go take a nap. Walk a little bit. Do something. stay a little bit active because that's what's going to help. And so I did that, and I felt better. I was able to drive. I took my kids to school, and then I went to radiation, was there 15 minutes. I drove longer than I was at radiation. Sometimes when I'd come home, I'd be in driving to get my kids or coming home from radiation, I'd be in our vehicle, and I'd start crying. And that was just when I let all my emotions out. Because I was like, I don't want nobody else to see me cry. I want to be strong. Because when I cried and when I had my little pity parties, I felt weak. I felt like I wasn't strong. And everybody kept telling me, oh, you're so strong and and I didn't feel it. I thought if you could only see me laying here or sitting here, you wouldn't think that.
I totally understand that feeling of just when you're at your lowest, you don't feel strong, but it's very obvious as you tell your story that you were strong the whole time and your strength showed in many ways. Even when you were down, you were strong.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I think just because you cry doesn't mean you're not a strong person.
Oh, for sure.
I've been told that by many people. And I remember I told you the other day, I was like, I remember when I was talking to the chaplain, I told her something that a lady told me on Facebook. She's like, the lady told me, she goes, Crystal, you might have cancer, but cancer doesn't have you. Remember that.
Yes.
And after this lady told me this on Facebook, that's when I decided, because I was losing some of my hair. Every time I brushed my hair, some would come out, and I was sick of seeing it because I thought, I'm not gonna let cancer keep taking things. So I just decided to go to the bathroom one day, and I shaved my head. And my mother-in-law came over and she fixed it for me because I missed places. I had patches everywhere.
So how did that feel when you shaved your head?
That was one time through the whole process that I felt, in fact, I think that was the time that I felt my strongest because it was on my terms. I did that on my terms and not on the cancer's timeline. And then I was kind of afraid. I was like, what is my head going to look like underneath all this hair? And safe to say that my head is shaped not bad. So I was pretty happy with that. And my family, I'll never forget this when I did that. One of my younger sisters, my dad, and my niece, Micaiah, all shaved their head too. And I thought, I love y'all. Y'all didn't have to do that, but I love y'all for that. And that's awesome because both my sisters were so supportive. They took the role as the big sister to me. And my aunts and my uncles, they all hovered over my dad and my sisters and me and my family during this time. And my granddaddy, who is in his 90s, him and my nanny, they're in their 90s. They still live at home by themselves. And they are like two of the greatest people I've ever met in my life. And I love them. And my granddaddy, I was talking to him on the phone one day, and he told me, he goes, how you feeling, girl? And I told him, I was like, I'm not feeling too good. I'm scared. And I'm afraid this is not going to work. He gave me a pep talk, and I will never forget those words. And he told me that I was strong. And to hear it from other people, you believe it, right? But when I heard it from my granddaddy, that was just like, okay, that's all I needed to hear.
Oh, I love that.
Granddaddy said it, so it's so,
Yeah.
And so that lit a fire under me that I didn't have before. And he told me that right when I was almost done with treatment. And so I went to the doctor, and the doctor said, it didn't get all of it. It shrunk it tremendously, but it's still there. And where it's at, unfortunately, we're going to do surgery. And I was like, okay, well, what does this surgery entail? And they're like, well, unfortunately, we're going to have to remove your rectum, and you're going to have to live with a permanent colostomy bag.
And you had mentioned earlier that was your worst fear.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Verma and Dr. Ollie knew this, and I told them that, and they told me, they're like, okay, look at it this way. Yes, this is something different, and you're going to have to adjust your life, your everyday things, but everybody's got something different about them. You're still
Yes.
gonna live a normal life. You're still gonna be able to do things. You're just gonna have to adjust certain things. So, this is something I was gonna have to do. And I told him, I was like, okay, if this is what I have to do to get rid of the rest of the cancer so I can be around to watch my kids graduate that haven't graduated or get married or whatever, this is what I have to do. You do what you got to do to make it. So,
You just surrendered to the process.
yes, because this was still I saw this as my way of still beating the cancer. Yeah, you're going to take something else from me, but I'm still going to live. So therefore, I beat you. You didn't beat me.
Yes.
And so after that, I went, we got it all scheduled. They're like, okay, Dr. Ali said, I'm going to go in, and this is going to be a 14-hour surgery. And I'm like, oh, good grief. Why? And they're like, well, what's going to happen is we're going to have to go in and reconstruct some things. They said, I'm going to go in, then the gynecologist, oncologist is going to go in and do some things. And then the plastic surgeon's going to go in and he's going to finish it up. So we're just going to hand off to each other. So once I was done, I was in so much pain, but the doctor's like, we got it. We're pretty sure we got everything. And now it's going to take a while to heal, but you're going to be fine. And then I was in the hospital, I would say, a week, maybe or two. And then I got an infection and had to go back to the hospital. And during this time, my husband, Jimmy, he was my caregiver. And I cannot ask for a better caregiver and person to go through this whole thing with than him, because he was awesome. And even though he was scared, you couldn't tell it. He was there to hold my hand and to push me and say, no, we're going to do this. We got this. And I went back to the hospital. They got the infection. I was in the hospital for a month. And then they said everything was good. I was able to go home. So I went home. I started doing a little more every day. And then I got to the point where I could go do whatever I wanted.
Oh my goodness. That's amazing. And you're cancer free today.
Yes, every 3 months I'm gonna have to go back for, blood work. The lesson I've learned about all of this is, if you have a hurt anywhere, go to the doctor. Ask questions. Stay on that doctor until you feel like you're getting, the care that you need. And if you have to get a second opinion, get a second opinion. Make sure you got, your insurance and all that stuff in order, because that insurance is what's going to help you get the treatment that you need, because that stuff is so expensive, and medication is so expensive. And make sure you use all the resources that's provided for you. Never be afraid to ask somebody for help. Never be afraid to lean on somebody. You can be the strongest person, but you still need that little village, because nobody can go through anything, not this, not nothing else, alone. You need to have that support system, and let people be that for you.
It's hard to ask for help, but I know if someone needs my help and I'm allowed to help them, it does something for me too. It gives me the gift of being able to be there for somebody.
Yes, it does. And you're paying it forward. You let somebody help you, you help somebody. And it's just, if everybody helps each other, then you get through things like this, because you need that.
Yes, absolutely.
I do appreciate you letting me come on here and talk about it and stuff like that, because, just hearing somebody else say, oh, I went through something and I made it. Anybody listening can think, okay, if that person did it, there's a chance I'm going to do it too,
And I so appreciate you coming on and telling your story and encouraging us and letting us know how we can best help our friends and family who find themselves in a situation like yours, what we need to do and what we don't need to do. Before you ever had cancer, which you mentioned earlier, you had a worst fear list. And at the top of that list, as far as medical fears, was having colorectal cancer, having to have a surgery that required you to have an ostomy bag. And here you are living your best life, enjoying life with your husband and your kids and all of your family, and living what was your worst fear and doing it well. I love that.
Thank you. Everybody's got a fear that they face it, and you face it, you face it, you know? I mean, you can't help when things happen, and you just gotta take it in stride and live your best life. That's all you can do.
That's right, girl. You're out there slaying giants.
I just wanted to tell you, thank you so much for having these podcasts. I mean, I've listened to all of them, and they really do help. I mean, it's always nice to hear other people's stories because you can take from everybody's story and probably make it a little bit better for yourself. So I appreciate you doing this podcast.
Oh, thank you for saying that. I so appreciate you being part of this community, and I'm so glad you're healthy. And I'm just so excited that now it's time to just live life.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're so, so, so welcome, and I feel like it's my pleasure. That does it for this episode of the Gen X Juggler podcast. Christie has turned her pain into purpose. She regularly shares her story with others who are battling cancer to encourage them. She has such a love for people, and it's impossible not to love her. When we were preparing for the podcast, she sent me a message that said, "I truly believe we are all here to help someone with our stories." She definitely did that today. I look forward to our next time together. Until then, friend, let's keep on juggling.
Nobody's ever gonna take